Hello and welcome back to the North American Online Qualifier Cup number 3, where we're going to see now arguably the most important game for these players in this tournament. So we saw two teams move on for that first and second spot, guaranteed spots in the America's Regionals. However, these guys that we're going to be seeing up next have to fight for their absolute lives to get that spot, last spot, to the America's Regionals. What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we are sending along 3 teams from this Qualifier Cup, so we do have to find out who our third place team actually is, which is why these guys sort of get a second chance, as it turns out, to be able to qualify. We need to find out, of the 2 teams that have been eliminated from the main bracket, which one of them is the better team and thus deserving of this last spot remaining. So it's going to be Dream Team versus Carlos Bandidos. And in fact, let's go ahead and take a look at the brackets and show how these teams have gotten there at this point in time.
So as you can see, Dream Team did lose to Luminosity, and of course, Carlos Bandidos lost to World of Warcraft. This is going to be a tough match for both teams. I mean, Absterge just had the shock of his life at that point, just being chased around for, what could have been 5 matches in a row of just killing that shaman over and over. And, if there's a team that could kill shamans as well as World of Warcraft, it might be the RMD of Dream Team.
That is true. We've seen Dream Team dismantle some Resto Druids, Shamans, and Warlocks. However, they have not dealt with the Feral Warlock Shaman team comp that we've seen Carlos's Bandidos running. I don't think they're going to bring out the jungle. I do think they'll stick with FLS. I know that FLS definitely does have the potential to defeat an RMD, but the Dream Team is no normal RMD. These guys are here to play. They know that they can, definitely win in this tournament. They've shown that. And I know that they're going to give their absolute best to this game coming up right here. Let's see if we can swing it into the game and get down to the action.
Yeah, and it's going to be, again, Dream Team versus Carlos Bandidos. And on the Grand Arena to start, as usual. Let me take a quick look at the specs and talents really fast. Looks like Snuts is going to be playing Subtlety this time. Maybe that's the shaman killing spec that he hopes to go for, which it could be because of that Shadow Dance, just constantly forcing out the cooldowns. As looks like Sam I Am, pretty standard. Shifty, pretty standard. As pretty much all over the place, exactly what we're expecting. And you can see Absterge is ready to be trained. So he is going to be playing Echo of the Elements again for that double Spirit Link totem, and is playing double Dispel also for that glyph for 2 dispels before it hits its cooldown. So let's see how Snuts and crew can manage to score a win here. They are looking to qualify for regionals, since this is, again, the 3rd and 4th place teams playing against each other. Snuts going all the way around, looking for his sap. It looks like they want to find a sap onto Vossel and maybe open up onto Walter Bear with CC onto Absterge, but let's see if that can happen at that point. But actually, Snuts gets taken out by a Purge. That's not good.
Yeah, wow. Absterge actually does a great job there, finding Snuts and just spamming that Purge button immediately. Shadow Dance coming out from Snuts, trying to put some damage into Walter Bear here. Absterge caught into that Deep Freeze for just a second. Walter Bear still pretty low, but now Absterge coming out of that CC gets a huge heal onto Walter Bear, and he's going to be totally fine for now. Snuts now running around over here out in the open, getting very, very slowed. He is, of course, playing Shadow Step instead of that Burst of Speed this time around, using that to get over in a hurry, but it does mean that he's somewhat susceptible to being caught out in the open by those roots and slows. So it's going to have to be important for him to try and stick to his targets as much as possible. And he's just sticking onto Walter Bear like crazy. Walter Bear once again caught in that full kidney shot. The Deep Freeze comes out into Absterge. Shifties is getting a little bit low himself, but Walter Bear could be in some trouble here. Now the full Polymorph comes out onto Absterge. Walter Bear having to run away and actually manages to toss a heal at himself. So he's going to be totally fine once again.
Oh, looks like Vossel may have a little problem right now. It looks like the teams are going to wait. Actually, not sure they're going to wait at this point, as Sam hits Absterge a few times. I think Absterge was trying to sit and drink, possibly? I don't know. Shifty looks like he might be waiting, but they're just going to do damage to Walter Bear. But, because he has a Spirit Link, he has a lot of cooldowns. It's possible that Vossel might be able to get back into the game before they can score a kill. But both Snuts and Samayam just going, teeing off on to Walter Bear. Walter Bear, has to try to make something happen, doing some CC onto Shifty, doing everything that he can, as he's going to just play defensive at this point. They really need to just string this out because, like we said, once the gates open, that's that's the match. We don't have a certain amount of time. Sam Am blocking, and is going to stay on the offensive, but we've seen 2v3s before as Walter Bear is down to half right now as Absearch is sitting in that poly, and that is going to be it. Dream Team takes the first round 1-0 over Carlos Bandidos.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Just to sort of recap our disconnect rules, the way that it works, like Jared said and like we said earlier in the broadcast, once the gates open, all bets are off. If you have an internet connection problem, that's very, very unfortunate. Obviously not what we want to see at any point in time, but we don't have any sort of allowance for, it's only been 30 seconds, it's only been a minute or whatever. And that's because, that's because of matches like what we've seen in the previous series where a game was over in 20 seconds. And we don't want, not that I ever think any of these players would do anything shady, but we don't want to see I got disconnected. I got disconnected. It's just a match to make sure that everybody's on the same even playing field. And unfortunately, when there are disconnect issues, that's just the nature of technology, unfortunately. So hopefully Carlos Bandidos can pull back into this, but that is going to be the first match for Dream Team in this best of 5.
Yeah, you absolutely hate to see it go like that. And it looked like for a second that there was even going to be some sportsmanship in this very last match. It did look like, the team of Dream Team did kind of hold back, and then they realized this guy's probably not coming back. Vossel did end up leaving the game, so, there's nothing really they could do. They do have to claim that win. I'm sure they're not too upset about having to claim the win, but, you got to salute them for holding back for a second, seeing if it was just a short thing, but, that is the nature of, online video games, that sometimes that does happen. But one of the interesting things about that game that we were noticing is that I think the damage from Carlos Bandidos was getting a little bit of the hold of the Dream Team there. They were cleaving him down, and I think that once Vossel gets his stuff sorted out, if possible, they could come back, run some FLS, and still give Dream Team a really hard time. Worst case scenario, they run jungle.
Yeah, throughout this tournament, we've seen Shifty kind of let himself rot down a bit and choosing to instead empower his DPS to stay more offensive, which has been really important in determining matches both for and against him. So right towards the end there, we saw that he was down to half, but he was so far removed from the fight at that point that it was okay. So I like that he's making those tough decisions in a tournament like this.
Yeah, definitely. We do have a map choice now for Carlos Bandidos. They will be going to Ruins of Lordaeron, which makes me wonder if they are actually planning to pull, because they do have jelly beans available that they could pull in. Makes me wonder if they are actually planning to play that jungle cleave, or if they're going to stick with Vossel if he maybe just had a temporary internet outage or something like that. If they're going to go ahead and stick with him, we'll find out very soon. But first, we do have to find out the comp choice from Dream Team, and they're going to, they're actually going Frost Mage, Affliction Warlock, Resto Shaman.
Yep, and that's definitely one of the options they have. Of course, Hamsham is going to be playing Shaman for them, I do believe, at that point, since he's a great Shaman to have. And then, of course, Snuts on Warlock, we've seen it year in, year out. He's one of the players that can play many, many classes at a very high caliber. You can pull up his stream on a daily basis, and he just switches from one class to another, and just plays it at such a high caliber. It's amazing to see players like that, and that's the flexibility that you need in a tournament like this, so they can just instantly swap to MLS.
Yep.
Yeah. And we know Snuts definitely is capable of playing this comp. One of the interesting things to think about is this is a decision they're making, sort of anticipating being able to close the tournament out as RMD. Just for the rules' sake, they do have to play every player at least once, so they are bringing in Hamshams, who is on the team. So MLS is a powerful comp, and I think MLS does definitely pose a threat to whatever team Carlos' Bandidos try to bring out. Obviously, the Jungle Cleave is a powerful team. However, one of the things that I'm thinking about when I see Ruins is, you think they're going to start targeting down the enemy team's healer, perhaps. We'll see if what happens next, but I don't think the MLS is going to do a whole lot of healer training. But when I saw that map, I was like, uh-oh, here we go. But we're not going to have to wait a whole lot longer to find out what these teams are going to employ, try to fight their way into a spot at the Americas Regionals, because we are in the arena, getting ready to start it up right now. Let's see if we can't get in there.
All right, now, of course, that is going to be Runes of Lordaeron, like we said, and of course, a comp swap on both teams. And maybe this was the preemptive comp swap. Maybe they were afraid of running Vossel again at that point, and maybe they knew that Jellybeans was going to have to pull out this Hunter to round the team out. Of course, Jellybeans did play Survival earlier. Now we're going to see him on this BM Hunter. So there's going to be a lot of bursts. Maybe he knew that he had a bunch of wizards coming at him. Going to play BM. So this is a smart choice. Hamsham is playing single dispel, which is different from Absterch, who's playing the double dispel, of course, against, the healers. or against a mage and a warlock seems to be an important choice at this point. So the gates are going to open up. Let's see how these teams handle the opener. Of course, Jellybeans is really going to have to push some offensive pressure very quickly out. You know, he really needs to wait for that 5-stack focus fire to do some damage, as we see the root coming down right away, but not too much initiating quite yet, as there we go. Now we're going to see the deep followed by the poly onto Absterge that lands because of the Shadow Fury onto both targets. Look at that, already a deterrence out onto Jellybean.
Yeah, that's a ton of pressure onto Jellybeans already, dropping the Feign there as well, and that's second deterrence, just because Absterge has been caught in CC for so long. Now the Spirit Link comes out as well. That is a ton of defensive cooldowns that have been forced by Dream Team already in this matchup. Absterge just still having to work super hard, and one of the downsides of this match, this map, is that when you're playing on the tomb in the center here, it actually can be very, very difficult to stay in line of sight of your healers. There's lots of little tiny line of sight blockers, and it looked like Absterge was actually having trouble. Whoa!
Yep.
Where did that come from?
So they did land a trap onto Hamsham, who was able to get out of it. You know, he did trinket that, but Snuts was just taking so much damage, and that's what that BM Crows can do. As also the, of course, the incarnation from Walter Bear too. That was a lot of damage.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here going, oh, I'm just going to talk about the map for a second. It's going to be totally fine. Oh, you know, he's taking a little bit of damage. He's going to be just dead.
Wow. At that score screen, I was expecting to see like a 120k Ferocious Bite or something, but I think that 81k kill command may have been what really chunked that last HP sliver from Snuts. So that was definitely an intense match. And one of the things to note is that Jellybeans is not a hunter who uses his deterrences easily. So one of the other things that you need to know is he's very, very smart about knowing when to use that deterrence, let alone the double deterrence. So he knew his healer, got in that deep poly first thing in the game, was able to use that double deter, keep himself alive, and allow his healer not to use too many cooldowns, to allow them to stay offensive, and they turned things around really quickly in a really big way, maybe even caught the MLS a little bit off guard. So once again, we are going to be heading into the third game actually, it being 1-1 now. Even though they did have to make the comp swap to Jungle Cleave, things look like they're working out okay. I don't know if they even have the option of swapping it up, but the enemy team does. And I know MLS is pretty good at dealing with hunters. I don't know if they just got a little bit caught off guard there, if they feel like they need to make a comp swap to even things out. They do get to pick the map, so that might be enough to sort of see if that can address the weakness. But you know, sometimes you get chopped and you still just got to get back up and try to play the best game that you can. And I anticipate that's what these guys are going to be doing next.
Yeah, they have chosen Tiger's Peak as the Dream Team's map of choice. So again, I like that map. I don't think it gives a huge advantage to individual comps particularly. I just think it's pretty. So I'm glad to see Tiger's Peak coming out again. I am wondering if Dream Team is going to go back to the RMD though. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think the MLS, sorry, is an excellent decision for what they were facing against. However, the BM Hunter kind of dismantled that at the end. They knew that they were going to have to face that burst pressure, and maybe Snuts just wasn't expecting that much damage to come out that quickly. I think MLS, they could stick to their guns with it and just play a little better, because they did get every defensive cooldown right from the start, put them in an excellent position, and it was just one CC chain onto Hamsham, which spelled defeat for them.
Yep, Carlos Bandidos is sticking with the Jungle Cleave, the Feral Druid and the Hunter. And Dream Team is actually sticking with the Frost Mage and Affliction Warlock. They're sticking with the MLS. Right. So we'll have to see. It could very well just be like you were explaining. Like I was caught by surprise by that damage. And I'm watching everything that's going on all the time. I would not be surprised if one of the players was a little bit caught off guard by that as well. Not that I think I'm nearly as good as Snuts at this video game, but I definitely could see that being a factor there as well, just being a little bit caught off guard, like, oh, where did all this damage come from? Okay, next time we'll have to deal with that a little bit better. So it could very well be something that they just said, you know what, it's not the comp, it was the fact that we were caught off guard. So they will be going here into Tiger's Peak to try and continue to dominate through this best of 5.
Another thing with Snuts is that he has been playing Rogue all day long. He might be in that Rogue mindset. He's been playing Rogue brilliantly all day long. But when you're a Warlock, you may have a few less defensive abilities in your arsenal. So sometimes that extra damage can catch you off guard. I don't think that he's going to allow the same thing to happen this time. I think they're going to play perhaps a little bit more defensively. But I think if they can secure that opener that they had last time, forcing that double deter, we're going to see a nice game out of these guys. But let's get to it. Throw it into the match.
All right, now let's see. Again, 1-1. Both of these teams are vying for that last spot at regionals. Since we've qualified 5 teams so far, 6 teams so far. So let's see if we can get this match underway, as it looks like Snuts is going to toss that gateway out right from the start. It is going to be from the center pillar off to the little patio area, as it looks like Sam I Am is going to be trying to find the enemy team. Absturge expecting the damage to come out, and let's see where Jelly Beans is right now. Looks like directly below me, as they are going to look for the initiation. Walter Bear right from the start, using Incarnation and Berserk and Nature's Vigil immediately, wanting to stay offensive with that, as we do have the Deep, followed by, looks like a Frost Jaw onto Absturge. But look at the damage Snuts is taking yet again. Gets a huge heal from Hamsham, and they immediately turn it around onto Sam I Am, who has to block. This is looking great for Carlos Bandidos already.
Yeah, it is. Like, they have managed to force a bunch of defensive cooldowns so far, but there's still 2 Spirit Links available. There's still all of Snuts' defensive cooldowns available. So it may not be quite as dominant as it really looks, especially as Dream Team is now getting the opportunity to turn this back around on the Jelly Beans. Jelly Beans having to use his deterrence there. Absturge caught into the polymorph. Walter Bear gets feared off into Narnia. He's going to have to work his way back over here. Actually going after Sam I Am there for a second, but looked like he maybe was just using that as an opportunity to get closer. There's the second deterrence now out of Jelly Beans. Of course, last game we saw he had to use both deterrences very, very quickly, and it didn't end up mattering because they were able to just kill Snuts, and the Crows are about to come off a cooldown for Jelly Beans. We could be seeing another big burst of damage here very shortly. Absturge manages to just barely get a heal off before getting caught into that polymorph, and now the Crows are coming out. The damage is going into Sam I Am. Does he have his second block available? Yes, he still does, and just barely uses that in the nick of time at 3% health. Does get healed back up there, and now once again the pressure is on to Jelly Beans. He's trying to drop a trap over there, just trying to do anything he can to slow down the pressure. He does not have any defensives available for quite some time. Absturge does still have both of his Spirit Links available, but he's got to be able to actually use those. And sometimes Jelly Beans is just getting caught out in the open and just taking a bunch of damage.
Looks like they're going to switch it on to Snuts right there. We saw the MAME followed by L. Looks like they're actually going to play defensive because Snuts was able to get out of there. But his trinket wasn't even ready at that point. You know, he is waiting on his Dark Soul to be back up, about 16 seconds away. Hamsham still has 2 Spirit Links, as does Absturge at this point. So they are going back and forth, trading defensive cooldowns. I do like that they got the blocks out of Sam I Am, and he'll probably be the target that they're going to go on. And look at that, Sam I Am is kind of by himself. The bash comes out onto Walter Bear. Walter Bear doing a great job of trying to stay out of line of sight, as we do see a trinket Spirit Link coming out because of that Wyvern Sting from Jelly Beans, as Jelly Beans is just going to barrage right into everyone, but Jelly Beans is taking a lot of damage. The Crows did go out onto Sam I Am, but Hamsham is doing a great job of keeping him alive at this point. We see a gate coming out of Sam I Am, trying to stay alive, but he is completely away from Hamsham. That stampeding roar keeping Walter Bear offensive onto Sam I Am as the next link comes out. And just as we were talking about 2 links available, it's now down to 0. This is not looking good for Dream Team, as you see Carlos Bandidos sit back, want to reset a bit because they just forced the very, very important cooldowns out of Dream Team.
Yeah, definitely. There is about 23 seconds left on Cold Snap for Sam I Am, at which point he'll have another Ice Block available. So it looks like they're actually maybe pushing in here a little bit earlier than that, trying to push some damage into Jelly Beans here. Snuts was caught very briefly into a trap there, and there's not much CC actually going out on either side at the moment. They're both just kind of duking it out, looking for a good opportunity to start their individual CC chains. Jelly Beans jumping over here, trying to keep the damage into Hamshams. Hamshams gets so low right there. He may be in a lot of trouble here. You could just go down, popping finally the Earth Shield onto himself, but it's so late, and he did not have any other defensive cooldowns available. I guess he had his Stone Form, but that was about it, and I don't think 10% damage reduction would have really saved him there.
No, that 120k Ferocious Bite, 100k Kill Command, that is just massive damage coming out from this Feral Hunter, and that is, I mean, you saw them line up every single time. You saw them play defensive, wait for the Crows to come back up, knowing that they can go and push. I liked that they forced the double links out of Hamsham, and then they knew their kill window opportunity.
That was some brilliant play out of Jellybeans, Wallabear, and Absurge. And now these guys do queue a lot of jungle on the ladder, so they know what they're doing. I really, really like the way they're playing and the way they're swapping. They started off on Snuts. They got some defensive cooldowns, immediately turned their damage onto Sam I Am, forcing a block instantly. These guys are all over the place. And even though they used most of their pressure to get defensive cooldowns and trinkets out of the Shaman, what they ended up doing at the end there, as you saw, is making a swap to him. So these guys definitely are not stuck to the idea that a Hunter Cleave has to hit one target, CC the healer. That's all they do. What they're gonna do is they're gonna pick out the defensive cooldowns, or the lack thereof, from the enemy team and exploit that. I also really like the way that they're pulling back, allowing their burst windows, their CC, to come back online. And they're also using all of that time to get their interrupts back online. So when the MLS does push in, does start going for those deep polys, you saw it right there at the end. They pulled back, the mage blinked in. He went for that deep freeze, started casting a polymorph, he got kicked by the feral. As soon as he started casting that frost jaw, he got both maimed and kicked by the hunter. So they're not letting the setup occur, which is really what forces so many defensive cooldowns out of the hunter Jellybeans. So these guys are playing brilliantly, and they're one game away from playing themselves all the way into the Americas regionals. So these guys, they definitely know what they're up against, but they are definitely rising to the challenge as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's kind of funny, like, they lost Vassal in the first match, which almost like forced them to play Jungle Cleave, and now they're playing just amazingly with the Jungle Cleave. It's like, oh, thanks for that disconnect, Vassal. It was exactly what we needed to sort of rise up to the challenge here. So we do have a map choice from Dream Team. It's going to be Tolvaron Arena. And Carlos Bandidos are sticking with that Jungle Cleave composition. I'm still really curious if Dream Team is going to end up making a map swap. I wouldn't think so on Tolvaron. If they've been playing MLS already, I kind of feel like they're probably going to stick with the Caster Cleave composition. Whoa, no, actually, they are going back to RMD.
Yeah, I think that they've been practicing this more than playing MLS together. I think that Snuts has just been playing a lot of Rogue, like a whole lot of Rogue. Not saying that his Warlock game is not on point, but I think just recently, especially in the tournament today so far, online on ladder, while streaming everything, playing a lot of Rogue. And if you're down 2-1 at this point, play what's comfortable.
Yep, so, with their training in hand, Snuts has said in the past he does believe that talent can't take a player and a team a very long way. However, going with their guns, going back to the Rogue Mage Druid, I think is a good call. It's still going to be a tough matchup against this very, very ferocious Jungle Cleave that we've seen give them tons of problems in this series so far. But like they said, with their tournament hopes on the line, they really have to bring out the absolute best that they've got, because they know the Jungle Cleave is bringing the best they got. You gotta love this tournament atmosphere, really inspiring these players to their absolute best, and it is amazing to be watching and sharing these games with you guys at home. Speaking of these games, looks like we can get into this one right about now.
All right, it is going to be on Tolvaron yet again, like we said. Again, the comp swap that we saw, it is going to be Dream Team playing RMD. They're down 1-2. They have to take this match, or it means that Carlos Bandidos is going to take their spot in regionals. So let's see if they can prove that, being tournament veterans, that they deserve this spot. Right out of the gate, we're going to follow Snuts once the action starts to see if he can land that initial CC. Upsurge is going to probably do what Resto Shamans do and try to get a lot of setup, that healing rain down. See the flare on top of them also, as looks like Snuts is going to choose to go the other way, but Jellybeans finds Snuts out as they walk on top of each other. With the fast reaction time, Jellybeans is going to be able to knock Snuts out, but we do see a step gouge to try to shut down that incarnation damage as Snuts is going to bomb also. Looks like they really want to go hard onto Walter Bear, but it looks like they're not getting that much out of it. Absterge already made his way over from that pillar, eating the poly on the way, but he was able to keep Walter Bear completely topped off. However, because of all this CC and damage they're dumping into Walter Bear, they are just ticking that time down on the duration of incarnation.
Yeah, it looked like Walter Bear actually used his first survival instincts there. Now he's actually used his second one as well, which is why he took so little damage through Snuts' Shadow Dance. And now Walter Bear, with that second second survival instincts about to fall off, could be in some trouble here. But Snuts also taking lots of damage. Abster's caught into that Frostjaw off of the deep though, into the blind. Are they going to be able to follow up that with more? No, but they do still manage to get the Spirit Link out. I'm a little bit iffy on that Spirit Link, honestly. It looked like everybody was actually pretty fine on Carlos Carlos Bandidos' side, but the Spirit Link does come out, and that's going to be a very, very good advantage for Dream Team as they continue through this. Of course, Shifty having to use the Iron Bark on himself to reduce that damage as much as possible. Also just running around in bear form, but he's living through the crows just fine. He's actually standing in range of the dinosaur. He doesn't even care that he's getting all that damage taken to him, but he actually might be in a lot of trouble right now. Down to 20% health. Does manage to get over here out of line of sight, and that's going to allow him to top himself back off here as Dream Team is once again putting a whole lot of damage into Walter Bear.
Yeah, as they had to burn Nature's Swiftness, Shifty says, as he starts to come across the field, gets Wyvern Stung, followed by a trap. So Snuts is kind of by himself, having to pull back at that point because of that CC chain. That was smart by Jelly Beans, and but the RMD is going to basically reset at this point, as Snuts does have the Dire Beast on him, which is going to stop the re-stealth. So that was a pretty good job by Jelly Beans right there, as Snuts, there he goes. Now he's going to try to find his, nope, there we go. And again, that pet denying the re-stealth over and over, as we do see the kidney on to Jelly Beans right there. And this is when the Shadow Dance is going to come out. Lots of damage coming onto Walter Bear. Knew it was coming, already had Survival Instincts up.
Yeah, and Absurge now into that Cyclone. Walter Bear could still be in trouble here. Snuts was put into a bash there briefly. Do they have any more CC for Absurge? No, it does not look like they do, but they put the offensive clone onto Walter Bear. Can they follow this up with more onto Absurge? Is there anything they have left? Does not look like that's going to be the case. Absurge is going to be able to throw some heals out onto Walter Bear, but that was a very scary moment there for just a second. Now with that deep freeze onto Absurge and the full kidney onto Walter Bear, the Cyclone comes, or excuse me, the Spirit Link comes out, does get killed very quickly, but it does manage to keep Walter Bear alive for a second. But now full Cyclone onto Absurge. Walter Bear is vulnerable. He's going into bear form and running away. Can they finish him off? No, Snuts caught into that trap. Beautiful trap there from Jelly Beans, keeping his teammate alive.
Wow, that was a trap plus an explosive trap on top of it, knocking Snuts away. Kept Walter Bear alive, as he is going to be rooted there. Let's see if he can make something happen, because Absturge again is in that poly. The smoke bomb comes down as Absturge just waddles over to the smoke bomb, as Snuts is going to enable Shadow Dance and going to go on Walter Bear, who did hit his Incarnation too. So they're burning the time down in Incarnation. Walter Bear just taking so much damage, down to almost nothing. The Comet Storm comes crashing in and is able to kill Walter Bear, which does mean that Dream Team should be able to equalize it 2-2. However, Jelly Beans is not giving up quite yet, as Shifty sitting at about 50% mana, so it's looking pretty good. They just need to start playing extremely defensive right now. Just let the basic time run out, just get some kills onto Jelly Beans with some hard CC onto Absturge, and just seal the victory on this map.
Yeah, I don't blame Jelly Beans and Absurge at all for trying to keep this going here. I don't think they have much of a chance, but it doesn't really matter. This is their last chance to qualify. Yeah, go ahead, use the Spirit Link. Do anything that you can to keep alive here. Doesn't look like it's going to last too much longer, though. Absurge is doing his best to keep Jelly Beans alive, but it's only going to be a matter of time. Jelly Beans needs to be able to make something happen in the very near future if they want to try and take this 2v3 down to a 2v2. But with Absurge in that polymorph and nothing left, that's going to be the end of Jelly Beans, and that's going to be the end of that game. And we are tied 2-2 between Dream Team and Carlos Bandidos. This is a best of 5. This next match determines everything.
This is what you want to see in a game series that determines who moves on to the Americas Regionals. You want to see it go 2-2. You want to see these teams bring out the absolute best that they've got. The Jungle Cleave versus the RMD. The RMD, or the swap to RMD, definitely seemed to work out in their favor, and you gotta love the way that they used that CC setup once again, but also poured incredible damage into Wallabear every time he had Incarnation. The Subtlety Rogue was unloading his full barrage of peels and damage to mitigate that cooldown and also turn things around in their favor. One of the funny parts of that game was when Shifty was almost getting soloed by that Crows and the T-Rex. He had the whole zoo on him, but he managed to survive just fine, and crisis averted. However, this Jungle Cleave is not done yet. You know that they're going to rise to the occasion. You know that they're going to play their absolute best game. Playing Jungle Cleave on the ladder, you know that they've fought RMD before. So they have some idea of how to handle this. Just the question is, can they handle the Dream Team in this final match what determines who makes it to the regionals?
Play of that game for me was the denying of the Incarnation. Every single time it was up, they had Snuts shadow stepping to him, gouging him, kidneying him, cheap shotting him, everything to shut down that damage, because that's really their setup. They go with the Incarnation, they go with a lot of damage, the disruption from it, the Crows on top of it. So Snuts just needs to keep on top of that in this next game.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, we are tied 2-2, but there is one small advantage for Carlos Bandidos here in that they do get the map choice for the final map, and that choice is going to be Dalaran Sewers, which is an interesting map choice. I'm still trying to parse exactly what that means for this matchup. What do you guys think about this?
Well, I
this
mean,
match choice
they could choose from between Dalaran and Blade's Edge at this point.
Yeah.
So, you know, giving a Warlock team, possible Warlock team Blade's Edge is probably a really bad idea.
Yeah, that's true.
And that would have given Absterge a lot more room to run had they chose to train him and stuff. But I mean, Shifty doing a great job of being able to stay out of CC. You know, like we said, he did make some risky plays over time, keeping his health at about 50%. This is one of the maps that paid off for him well, because he knows he can just drop out of line of sight, you know, and be kind of protected from that. So we'll have to see. This is going to be an exciting match. 2-2 means that this one map determines which team moves on, and the other team, that's it for this year.
Yep. Yeah. This will be the final qualifying match of the North American online qualifiers. After this game, we will know all 6 teams that are moving on from North America. They'll be facing off against BBAU from ANZ and the winner of the WoW Copa America from Latin America. They will be joining. I'll be joining each other at the Americas Regionals later this year. It's down to the wire here. Dream Team on the left, that is going to be Snuts on the Rogue, that's going to be Sam I Am on the Mage, and that's going to be Shifty on the Resto Druid, facing off against Carlos Bandidos, fighting for their lives. Walter Bear on the Feral Druid, Jelly Beans on the Beast Mastery Hunter, and Absterge on the Resto Shaman.
All right, so straight out of the gate, Absterge is going to choose his position right behind the boxes, actually choosing to get a little bit away from it, as it looks like they're going to try. Wow, Shifty, again, was trying to play that initial offensive role, which he did before, the full blind onto Walter Bear. Snuts is going to try to get a re-stealth. It looks like he isn't going to be able to, is going to sap Walter Bear out of that blind, so that's pretty good, as there we go, now he gets his re-stealth taken out by that flare. Smart play, knowing that he's going to be right by Walter Bear, as Snuts looks like he's not doing much at the beginning of this match.
Yeah, he actually had to use his Vanish to get that re-stealth as well. He left a little copy of himself behind, which I'm not sure about that minor glyph choice, because it did give a pretty good indicator of where you needed to drop where Jelly Beans needed to drop the flare. However, they're now going crazy onto Walter Bear over here. They've got a root onto Jelly Beans and a cheap shot onto Absterge. They're going to go ahead and get the Garrote onto Absterge as well. Can they keep up the CC? Does not look like it. Absterge is, however, oh, no, excuse me. They actually managed to get a full polymorph onto Absterge on his Ascendance, so he's going to lose the majority of that cooldown. However, it looks like Walter Bear is still doing just fine over here, popping his Incarnation now, trying to put some damage into Snuts. Snuts does have his evasion up, but he keeps getting stunned, and he may just go down right here. Has to use his cloak. He's in a lot of trouble over here at 16% health, but he has managed to get a re-stealth off, and he's going to move back in over here, just doing his best to stay alive, but it's too much. Snuts is going to go down, and that's going to be the win for Carlos Bandidos. They are going to be our final qualifying team from the North American online qualifiers.
That was great. Shifty did try to Displacer Beast away to try to put some room away from him and Snuts, because you know that the Druid CC is, you know, in melee range when he wants to stun him, but you know, Incarnation was still up and he was able to rake Shifty, stun him again. Wow, what a game.
That's a strategy that I was curious if they had that in their back pocket. They may have noticed last game that Crows and that big old angry T-Rex almost brought Shifty down alone. So maybe if they put a little bit of Wallbear in that action, they could bring him down. And that's exactly what they did in order to set up the kill. They forced a lot of cooldowns out of Shifty. They put a lot of damage into Shifty. And then once Shifty Displacer Beasted away, they put him into a trap and swapped all that damage, the rest of the Incarnation, onto Snuts, and eventually scored the kill. One of the fun things about that is you gotta love that MVP 41k Lava Burst crit. You know that had to add up, and that did force the cloak, but the cloak wasn't quite enough. So huge congratulations to Carlos Bandidos. This has been an amazing tournament, and you know they've got to be absolutely elated to secure that last spot. Dream Team put up a great fight, a brilliant tournament, but in the end, somebody's got to move on, somebody's got to not move on, and Carlos Bandidos is going to be the team moving on to the Americas Regional. So congratulations to you guys. What an amazing series of matches we had today.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, they will be moving on, as you said, to the Americas Regionals, the dates of which will be announced very, very soon. Still sorting out all the last-minute details for exactly when and where the Americas Regionals will take place, but we'll have that information for you very, very soon, where they will be competing over that $100,000 prize pool and those 3 tickets to BlizzCon from the North American Regionals. I also want to give a huge shout-out to GCD TV. They have been just amazing, keeping these matches moving, even through little technical difficulties here and there, making sure that everything went absolutely smoothly. We had game after game after game after game after game. It was absolutely incredible. And huge thanks to Brian Holinka for coming on as well, and talking a little bit and sharing some of his ideas and the design thoughts for Legion coming up.
Yeah, it was great to hear from him, you know. Also, got to thank the viewers for tuning in. It's been an absolutely amazing tournament, but we do have a little bit more PvP for them today. We haven't decided the absolute finals for this this NA Online Qualifier number 3, so we still have some matches for you guys. These are just going to be best of 3, you know, because they all have made it to regionals. They have plenty to celebrate about, but you got to believe, being the you know, aggressive tournament players these guys are, they still know that bragging rights are on the line. You know, you put that on your Twitch page. You know, NA Online Qualifier number 3 winner. So let's take a look at these brackets one last time and see how things have shown up for this this Online Qualifier number 3.
And as you can see in the bottom right, third place match is what we just played out, and that was Carlos Bandidos taking the match 3-2. That does mean that Dream Team is not going to move on, and we do have our 3 teams. Of course, Carlos Bandidos, Luminosity, and World of Warcats. And of course, we do need to crown a victor after this point, so we're going to play a best 3 for those guys just to determine which team has been our reigning champion of these qualifiers.
Yeah, we also have to give them the opportunity to, we have to play the game to give them the opportunity to maybe pull in anybody that they didn't have a chance to play earlier, and so on. Obviously, I expect these to be fairly relaxed matches, and all of the qualifying matches are now finished. But we do have this one little best of 3 left, but we will be taking a short break first before we move on to that.